Hello, I'm Matt Frawley. This is Mathey Talks, and today I have the great pleasure of sitting down and chatting with Tennille Haynes, the director of the Carl Field Center. So, just to start off, what is the Carl Field Center? What is it all about?
Hey, Matt. So the Carpool Center is the Carpool Center for Equality and Cultural Understanding. So originally, the Field Center started off in the 70s after some student protests and the need for a space for students of color. Mm-hmm. And it used to be across the street where the E-Quad is now, where they're building.
I've been in the old.
You have? Have you been there?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't been there, but I heard a lot about it.
This is an improvement.
I've heard.
Yeah.
I heard it's pretty shady over there.
Yeah,
I don't know.
This is a great space.
Great. It's good to know. So originally it was a Third World Center. Mm-hmm. And in 2009, the building moved over here, which used to be an old eating club, the Elm Club. And it was renovated, and the space is now the third Carr Field Center. And it was named after Dr. Carr Fields, who was the first administrative African-American dean in Ivy League.
Cool. So how did you get here? Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm originally from New York City, and I grew up until about the age of 9 in Spanish Harlem, and we moved to the Bronx after that. So I'm always New York City girl, I guess. And
does that make you a Yankees fan?
No, not really.
Oh, really?
I've always driven by or been by Yankee Stadium, but I've never been to a game.
Okay.
At Yankee Stadium.
So no sports at all, or are you?
Not really. Okay, although I was a huge pro wrestling fan.
No way.
For many
wrestling.
Many years.
Did you have your favorite pro wrestler?
Oh, absolutely. The Undertaker, Hulk Hogan. These are right. Bret the Hitman Hart, Shawn Michaels, but my favorite was Sting.
What, Sting?
Sting.
Okay. So when you were interviewing here, did that come out, the pro wrestling?
No, not really. I didn't bring that up.
But now you're here.
But now I'm here, so now I can tell everybody.
That's
yeah,
great.
absolutely. I was obsessed. Pay-per-view specials, magazines.
Shirts.
Probably not the shirts, but I did Monday night specials. I even watched Mexican wrestling. I was a huge fan. Huge fan.
Great.
Yeah. So that was the only sports that I really got into. So.
Sports.
Well, I guess it's real. It is entertainment. Right. People get hurt. It's real.
Okay. I won't press.
Okay.
All right. So you grew up pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. You were thinking probably as an executive in the pro wrestling, the WWE or whatever it's called, but that didn't work out.
No, that didn't work out. I was originally always wanted to be a lawyer, and again, I was a huge Matlock, Perry Mason fan, so I thought that was the way to go, to be a lawyer.
Right.
And I went to Stony Brook University as well, where I was a history major, and realized law was not for me. But I loved student life, and I was president of the Greek Council there as well, and I just loved student activities and campus life. So I said, well, after college, why not try that? So here I am.
Here you are.
Here I am.
So, but before you were here at Princeton, you were at
I was at Colgate University. Right. So I was at first I started out at Utica College. Okay. There, and then that's where I did my master's in education. Mm-hmm. And then I went on to Colgate University. I was there for about 4.5 years, and then I came to Princeton.
Great.
Yeah.
And this is your, I want to say, third year.
Yeah, this is my third year. I'm a junior.
Okay, junior. All
yeah, right. I can't wait for senior year.
All right, so more about the Carl Field Center. You talked a little bit about it, but can you just give a little bit more, some of the specifics about its mission here on campus? Sure.
So our mission here on campus is really to work with all diverse students. Our primary audience is students of color, which represents about 40% of the student population on campus. So from there, we really work to support diverse student needs on campus. We do Heritage Month events. We also do senior celebrations, which are coming up, Latino and Pan-African graduation. We just finished a great Black History Month, and we are getting ready in April to start Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And out of that, we also have Miss America coming, Nina Davari, who is the first Indian Miss America. So she's going to close out Women's History Month, which is now in March, and kick off Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. We also do dialogues and discussions through our Sustained Dialogue program, but we also have Carpool Center fellows who work, and we're transitioning to also be diversity peer educators on campus. And then we also have PUMP, which is the Princeton University Mentoring Program, which is a great program that pairs first-year students of color with upperclassmen.
I'd like to hear more about PUMP, because I think the mentoring is something that
Sure.
students really crave here in many different ways. I know the underclassmen really would love that interaction with upperclassmen, and PUMP seems like a great way
Yeah,
to
PUMP
have
is
that.
awesome. PUMP has been around for a really long time, and they are just a great group of students. And we get so many mentors who want to be PUMP mentors because of their experience as mentees. And they're really good at the social aspects. They have families as well. So you can get like a one-to-one mentorship opportunity or a group mentorship opportunity. They go for froyo. They also do a lot of study breaks. We have career development with resume writing workshops. They also go pumpkin picking. So they really try to implement a lot of the fun things to have students integrated really well during their first year into the Princeton experience. But we are looking to expand that a little bit more and do bring in a lot of things that makes the mentorship opportunities more special. So we want to do more networking opportunities with alumni. We want to bring in more speakers that are geared towards our mentees as well, to help them really evolve around their Princeton experience. We want to talk a lot more about opportunities for fellowships and going abroad and internships as well, and give them a really great opportunity not only to enhance their Princeton experience, but think beyond their Princeton experience and what's going to happen when you graduate.
Well, let's say I'm a freshman and I'd like to get involved in PUMP, and I have a mentor, and what are they generally going to tell me about the Princeton experience as a minority student?
Sure.
How would, they're just Princeton's a certain way, and we're always trying to evolve and develop and grow, but there's struggles, obviously. What might my mentor tell me?
Sure. So it really depends on the mentee-mentor relationship. And what's so great about PUMP is that the mentee can really select what kind of experience they're looking for. So we really try to gauge, well, how many times do you need to meet with your mentor? Is it like once a week or a couple of times a week or once a month, however that goes? But I think the responsibility of the mentor in that relationship is to really give their own unique perspective, because that's so important. As each individual mentors, you have your own unique perspective about your experience at Princeton that you can share with your mentee. So, there is some struggles here at Princeton, and you can talk about that, and you can talk about how you have experienced it, as well as what support that you have sought out. How do you survive also being here? What kind of things do you do? And you can also introduce your mentees to your network of friends, your group. But it's important to share your personal experience and answer any questions that they have. But I think also the other responsibility of a mentor is to introduce your mentee to this Princeton experience. What are some of the things that are happening? A lot of times we'll have mentees who will take them to sports games, or they'll take them to events that are happening on campus and introduce them to the wider Princeton community so that they can become engaged and seek out their own experiences.
Okay. I know that's one thing that you've really emphasized. Is my question kind of leads naturally to these generalities.
Right.
And you're someone who appreciates those, but also is really focused on the individual and the unique perspective and story of each person.
Absolutely. I love people's stories.
Yeah.
They're so interesting.
But I think that's very empowering, I think,
Right.
Because I think it's easy, as I expressed it, to in my question, that to just kind of want to look for the generalities and not
Right.
the individual stories.
Sure. There are definitely some common themes that people have, and not which makes us be able to relate to each other, right? Is that we share similar experiences, similar backgrounds sometimes. But I think it's also those differences that even better enhance relationships, that we can learn from each other. And everybody has a very unique experience as well. Everybody has their own perspective. They experience things differently. We can sit here and very much experience our environment very differently in how we see things. But it's important to share those stories and to talk about it so that I can see your perspective and you can also see my perspective. And then, if we can meet somewhere in the middle, or it'll at least teach me, okay, well, I may not see it this way, but I know from my conversations with Matt, this may affect him in a completely different way. we all have our stories to share, and it's important that we do share our stories, that we do listen to each other, and we ask questions, and we try to engage with everybody else, just so I can see. I may not be able to completely walk in your shoes and know what your life is like, but I can have a better understanding of what you may be going through and what you're experiencing, and that's so important.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, not that I meant that in any way as a segue, but
Oh, yeah.
it definitely feeds into what you put down as on the website as the 4 pillars of the Carl Field Center, and I was doing a little prep work. As much as I try to keep this, not do that, just
Sometimes you gotta do
that's
prep
fresh,
work, right?
but there's always a little prep work, and I was looking
Yeah.
on the website, and you talked about the 4 pillars being empowerment, understanding, social justice, and leadership. And you've already touched on those a little bit, but can you maybe just explain each of those pillars a little bit more?
Sure. I think always the empowerment part is that we want to make students feel empowered. A lot of students will come here, and it's so important, I think, especially from Latino graduation. This will be my 3rd graduation seeing. But in previous 2, they have this really great concept at the end where students get to come up to the microphone or the podium, and they get to address the audience, particularly their family and their friends who are there to support them, and say their thank yous, and also talk a little bit about their Princeton experience and what it has meant to them. And a lot of times, and so often, I hear from students who saying, this degree is not for me, this degree is for my family, or, how lucky they have felt to be here. And I've always sit there and always think it's not about luck. You need to be empowered to know that every single student is here on their own merit. Princeton made no mistakes in admitting people, and you got here by your own merit. You got here by the support of your caregivers, your families, your support system, your community as well, and you deserve to be here just as much as anybody else. And we need to make that more clear for people. And I think just providing that empowerment for people to understand that they have a place here. This is also their community. This is also their home and their school. And therefore, how do you grow as a person from that? How do you grow from your experiences? How do you feel empowered to raise your voice and to also share your stories and be passionate about the things that you're passionate about and learn from each other, but also learn so much more about yourself? So I think that empowerment pillar is just so important in doing that. And I think with the understanding is always you have to understand. Before you can make any changes, you always have to seek to understand something before you can criticize something as well too, or you can make judgment about anything. So not only to understand yourself better, but also understand people around you better as well, and learn from that too. When students come here, they're definitely at that questioning phase. Your first year, you're questioning yourself, you're questioning your experiences, you're questioning everything that you learned from your family, your friends, and your community, and what you've been taught. And that's all about college experience. It's about learning more about yourself and also developing your own values and your own understandings and your own appreciations, and figure out who you are as a person. Excuse me.
No problem.
And I think that's so important, is that understanding piece. And a part of the Field Center and the cultural understanding piece is to give those perspectives out there. It's for us to do programs, for us to do events, and to have the conversations, to provide all unique perspectives around that, and to help students and people who attend those events better understand what's happening, but also form their own opinions and answer their own questions, or seek to understand more about it as well too. And I think the leadership speaks for itself. We want, Princeton is a place for leaders. It develops leaders. You come in as a leader and you grow even more. You're going to leave here and you're going to be a leader in your community, in this country, or wherever you travel globally as well too. And that's the whole emphasis. And we really want to work, especially with students of color, are developing leadership skills of being a leader and to be able to take a stand as well. Is that help?
Awesome.
Great.
So, thinking about those pillars.
Did I forget social justice?
You did. No, yes, you did.
Oh,
you did
yeah.
Empowerment, understanding, then you went to leadership, and we need social justice in there.
Social justice is a given.
Okay.
Yeah.
But especially this year, I think, as we talked before.
Absolutely.
With Ferguson and Eric Gardner. So these 4 pillars and the mission of Carl Field Center has been so critical
Right.
for this year. Can you just talk about the experience of this year and the students and
Sure.
what role you've had to play, the triumphs and frustrations and setbacks if there have been?
Sure. I think this academic year has been such a unique experience. It's been amazing, but also heartbreaking, also challenging as well, all wrapped up into this ball or something. And I have seen students just take such a stand this year and be so impassionate. And I think that just encompasses everything that we just talked about, the leadership, the empowerment, the understanding as well. And they just exemplified that this year. We, at the beginning, I think it was right when the verdict was coming out for the Mike Brown indictment, the Field Center, along with the Black Leadership Coalition, held a town hall in Wicklow, just to hear the announcement of the verdict as well, but also to talk more about a dialogue of student experiences and what it meant if there was an indictment or a non-indictment as well. And when a non-indictment came out, there was just so much emotion in the room that you could just cut it with a knife. It was just so intense, and it was really powerful. And it was also heartbreaking just to see some of the student experiences and what they felt. And a lot of students were just so passionate and just saying, you know, that could have been me, that could have been my brother, that could have been my friend or somebody close to me as well, and this can happen again. And they really wanted to take a stand. They really wanted to do something. They wanted to disrupt what was happening. So everybody knew that this issue was important, that everybody should pay attention to it. And they were able to mobilize in an hour 400 students marching on Prospect Avenue. Amazing. I've never seen that before. And it was just so amazing just to see that happen. And, you know, everybody in the Women's Center making signs, and then going outside of Frisk, and then going to Prospect for, you know, a couple of hours and marching through campus and right back there. And even after the protest was over and the march was over, students still stayed and said, how do we turn this moment into a movement? How do we just keep it going? How do we just not let it end here, but we have to continue to bring awareness? And they did. I think that for the rest of the semester, and we saw die-ins, you saw walkouts, you saw protests at events that were happening, meetings with the president. We've seen a task force be created around these issues. And that would not have happened if it was not for those students. And that was amazing.
How about, I mean, I wonder if there's, with that, was there, so generally you're really impressed with a lot of students, but I'm sure there's still some passivity, some apathy along the way, which you're going to get to a certain degree. And then, you know, with also with students, I'm thinking that, you know, oftentimes it's academics going to win out
Right.
You know, right at the end.
Right.
So, you know, so there's this momentum you have, and I'm just wondering, how do you keep it going? What's
Right.
the Carpool Center thinking about? How do we continue into April and into next year?
Sure. Yeah, sometimes academics always went out. Right. And you'd say, yeah, I could do that protest, but I have a midterm. Right. So you only have me for a couple hours because I got to study. I think one is, I'm definitely not one to be at the forefront. I like to be behind the scenes. And I think that's why it's so important for me to support the students in whatever it is that they need. You know, just checking in and making sure everyone is okay and that they're taking care of themselves first and foremost. But that they also feel like they have the support from administration and the Carpool Center to be able to do what they do. And that's why I think it's so important that this is a student movement, not a Carpool Center movement or a Tennille or administrative movement, that this is about them because this is their campus, this is their community. I get to go home at 5 o'clock or whatever time I leave here. They are here 24/7, and this is their home for the next 4 years as well. So it's important for them to be able to create that dynamic and to be able to use their voice to make change as well. I think you're always going to have the skeptics and people who are just saying, I don't understand why this is so important, why we're still talking about this. And I think it goes right back to a person's individual perspective and their own story, is that it may not be important to me, but it's important to you. And I want to understand why it's so important to you so I can support you in that. Even if I don't really understand, but I understand you. And I want to help and I want to be supportive. But I think not just what's happening on this campus, but what's happening nationwide is continuing to happen. It's not something that just started in August with the first shooting or the first recognized shooting that was addressed on the media, but this has been going on for such a long time, since hundreds of years. And it's not, and it has to continue to be an issue. We have to continue to talk about it. We have to continue to try to make change. We have to recognize everyone who's involved in that. And I think there was a lot of question around, well, shouldn't it be everybody's lives matter, not just Black lives matter as well. And there was a great speaker that LGBT brought here as well too, who was one of the creators of Black Lives Matters hashtag. And, she really said, yes, everybody's lives matter. That's not a question. Why does Black Lives Matter so much right now? Because at such a higher disproportionate rate, you see more attacks on Black people that has just been going on. And we have to ask, why is this happening? Before you can get to anybody else, you really have to think about, why is this group being targeted? What is going on? How do we change this? And I think for a lot of students who were really focused and said that this is a Black student issue, and if we can make change for ourselves, then it will affect everybody else and it'll be a change for everyone. But at this point, you have to respect that movement, and you have to be able to understand, and we have to find a way to support them as well. And that's really important to me.
Neat.
Yeah.
So we're unfortunately running out of time.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So, but just kind of last thoughts. As you go into your senior year, next year, and you're thinking about, I really want to emphasize this a little bit more. I'd really like to see the freshmen. We do a little bit more of with this, whatever, with them. What is that? What do you think about? In
Absolutely.
terms of really kind of the catalyst we need here on campus.
Sure. Always foremost is community.
Mm-hmm.
That catalyst has to be community. When students come here, anybody students, they're not just going to come into a program that's the Carpool Field Center. I want them to come into a community of people that respect each other, that is inclusive, that is engaging, and that we can have honest dialogue with each other. And I think that's so important. I think moving forward, the Field Center, we definitely have to. One of the challenges is saying that the Carpool Center is not just for one group of students, it's for a lot of group of students as well. And I try so hard not to leave anybody out, but I'm just one person. So I try to do as much as I can, and I think that really has to be a goal of mine for next year, is to do better. We have to do better at engaging all of our constituents as well, and making them feel like the Carpool Center is their home, and it's a place where they can have those dialogues and discussions, where they could have their protest and advocacy meetings as well too, where we could talk about allyship, we can talk about inclusivity as well, we could talk about class and gender and equity, and then we could also challenge those ideas, right? To give another perspective and have students be able to think of through a lot of different lenses as well, and formulate their ideas and their opinions as well. So that's really important to me, is to be able to turn the Carpool Center into that space that students need it to be.
Well, I really appreciate the time. I know I appreciate just your, I don't know if it's the right word, but kind of mature perspective.
Thank you.
An individual. I think it's easy to fall into traps, and that's you're always there to, in a very gentle way, say no. That's not, does that make sense?
Yeah,
that's not. That's okay, but there's a better perspective.
Right.
And so I appreciate that, because I learned.
Thank you. I
a lot
appreciate
from
you saying that.
And I really do thank you for this time, and for the mission of Carpool Center, and for how seriously you take it and your passion for your
Absolutely.
work
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
There we go.